How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world, Options Training Academy. And what we're going to talk about is how you've been lied to. And what we're really going to go into is a lot of the lies that you may have heard or you may have been exposed to around options trading. And this is going to be a good video for people that kind of want to understand about options trading. Maybe you tried to actually trade options. You've been unsuccessful. You can't figure out why you not have been able to get the success you desire. Maybe you're on the outside looking in and you've heard about the options trading space. You've heard about the options trading market, and you are kind of scared or intimidated around this particular space because you've heard so many negative things. What we're going to talk about is the two biggest lies in this particular space, what they are, and why you shouldn't believe in them. And I'm going to actually show you evidence to give you better information so you can make better decisions around this particular industry, as opposed to having to hear the lies that you've been taught, right? So this is who this particular video is going to be for. No, we do a lot of social commentary here, but at the foundation of what we're doing here is market-based education, because we believe that by you understanding the financial markets, you can live the life that you desire, but you have to be willing to do the work to understand these particular markets, to extract the life that you desire from these particular markets. They're available to you. Really quickly, before we get into the show, we have a sponsor of the show. So we've been able to be fortunate enough to have people reach out to us to sponsor our show. So I want to encourage you to reach out to the particular sponsors, see what they have to offer to you. Maybe it works for you, and maybe you can figure out some type of way in which they can be beneficial to you. So we're going ahead and get my sponsorship promotion out, right? So my sponsor today is itmasterkey.com. And if you're looking to transition into the tech field, my friends over at Master T IT can definitely help. Their training is 100% online and is accessible 24/7 worldwide. Most students gain their first certification within 30 days. So what I want you to do is visit itmasterkey.com. That is itmasterkey.com to begin your transition into tech today. So that is a sponsor of the show. Let me make sure I put the banner up. That's itmasterkey.com. Let me get that out of the way as a ticker. And what I want you to do is reach out to them, see what they have to offer to you, and we can go ahead and move forward with the rest of the show. Now, what we're going to talk about today is the fact that you've been lied to, right? And you've been lied to about the options market. And so the first lie is that the majority of options contracts expire worthless, okay? The majority of options contracts expire worthless. And the reason why you've been told this is because people desire to sell you into something that is different than just being in the options market. Now, this is a fallacy, and the reason why I know it's a fallacy is because I reached out to the guy who essentially wrote the Options Bible, and he's on YouTube. He got a platform of around maybe 1,000 people on his channel. But he wrote the Bible around options trading, and one thing that he talked about is that most options don't expire worthless. And the reason why we know that is because of the robust market around the particular options market. So what do I mean? Let's say we're looking at the auto auction market, and we're looking at all the people that buy auto auctions, right? And let's say we go to the auto auction and we're all bidding on these cars so we can resell them to our audience. And let's say 70% of those cars never got sold. How valuable do you think that market would be? So if we're car resellers and we go to auto auctions to buy used cars so we can resell them to our used car audience, and 70% of the inventory that we buy can't get sold, and we got to take a loss on it, how long do you think that market would stay viable? And the reason why people believe in this particular narrative is because they don't really understand the options market. Therefore, if they go into the market and they're unsuccessful, then they're told, well, the reason why you were unsuccessful is because 70% or 80% or 90% or the majority of options contracts expire worthless. Well, that's because you don't understand the market. And what you got to understand is that you have the CBOE in Chicago. They do literally billions of dollars of options contracts every year. Now, many of us don't know about the CBOE, and they don't have a lot of video and a lot of information around them. They're not hidden, but they're not very well known. Everybody knows about the New York Stock Exchange. But most people don't know that Chicago is a financial city. because of the music, because of the perspective of Chicago, because of the way in which people think about them. They know about everything negative about the city of Chicago. They don't understand that Chicago is a financial city. It's one of the top financial cities inside the whole world. So you got the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. We also got the CBOE. The CBOE does billions of dollars of options every year. They do billions. How would the CBOE do billions of dollars in options every year if the majority of the contracts expired worthless? And so we got to understand that most people are going into this particular space and they're brought in for the wrong reason. They're looking for the wrong thing. And then when it doesn't work, then their attitude is, I have to figure out a reason why it didn't work. And then they start to believe that, well, the reason why it didn't work is because most contracts expire worthless. And then that's how they get rolled into the second point that we're going to talk about. The reason why I built the system that I built is because I wanted to be able to bring in people at a lower price point than what most people were getting brought in historically. So I studied the whole market and I understood how were people teaching this curriculum. And I'm going to talk about that in another video. And I realized that the way most people were teaching this curriculum, you had to have literally a high capital limit to get brought into this space based on the way they were teaching it. And what it did was it kept the majority of people out of the space. The people that I have been able to help become successful in this space, many of them would not have been able to come into the space based on how options trading traditionally was taught. Look at S&B Capital up in New York City, no disrespect to them, but based on how they teach it and how a lot of these other platforms teach it, is to keep people out of the space, to make them think they can't come into space because they don't have the capital requirements. We figured out a way to teach it in a way in which they don't need those capital requirements. However, you still have to understand the space. So you coming in at a lower capital requirement is not an excuse not to be knowledgeable. Therefore, once you get knowledgeable and you understand the scale of the market, you understand that the majority of contracts do not expire worthless. That is false. Because if they did, then we would not have a valuable derivatives market. What I teach people is the difference between the equity market, which is the foundational asset, and the derivatives market, which is an extraction or derivative of the actual underlying asset or the foundational asset, which is the equity. Most people are just trading options and they don't even understand that the option is a derivative of the fundamental or the foundational asset. And then we understand, why do people create this derivative of the actual foundational or fundamental asset? So it's through the education that you start to understand the scale and the capacity of the market. And then you start to understand this market is too widespread. The derivatives market is too broad for the market to have a 70 or 80 or 90% failure rate. It has a high failure rate for people that, one, don't understand what they're doing and they don't have self-discipline around themselves. But then they would fail in every other space. So many people come into the market and they fail and they blame the market. They don't blame why they've been failing at everything else before they came into the market, right? Now let's go into the second point, because we're not going to be here that long. This is not going to be a long video. The only money to be made in the options market is made by selling options. Now, this is a narrative created by people that want to create courses around selling premium. And this is a way in which people differentiate themselves in the market. So in the market, we have a way in which we differentiate ourselves. How do I make myself different than everybody else? So I sought to do that. Well, what makes my offer different than everybody else is, one, I teach fundamentals. I don't teach just technicals. I teach fundamentals. 3, with my VIP course, we have a subconscious therapy counselor, because most people are failing because of what's going on between their head. They're not failing because they don't have information inside their brain. However, the way in which a lot of people try to differentiate themselves in the options market is they try to teach selling premium. Now, I'm not against selling premium, but to say the only way to make reliable money in the options market is by selling premium is false. Why? Because we wouldn't have the scale of the market if the only way to make it is to sell it, and then everybody else that bought it was a dummy. But because I am teaching a bunch of people that really don't know any better, I can tell them, well, if you're buying contracts or buying options, you're on the wrong side of the trade, because really the only way to make money is to actually sell it. It doesn't stand up to all the evidence in the market. But see, this is what happens in pretty much every market. The scale is always at the bottom of the market, which means what? I'm dealing with the people that are most uneducated, the most unsophisticated, right? You can't sell me certain stuff around market, around the financial space, around trading. Why? Because I know too much. So I'm going to immediately tell you, well, no, I don't believe in what you're telling me. Why? Because I know better than that. Because I actually trade in real life. I actually study this. I put a lot of time and a lot of energy into this particular space. So you can't just tell me anything. So I'm at a higher part of the funnel. The easiest way to drive sales in any space is to go after the people that are most unsophisticated and the most uneducated about an area. That's the largest audience. That's where you build the scale at. As you start to move up the funnel, you're dealing with people that are a lot more savvy. Therefore, you can't come at them with certain messaging because they're going to be like, no, it doesn't really work that way. So let me give an example. The Tulsa. Tulsa was essentially a real estate syndication deal. Well, what did he go after? He went after the most unsophisticated and the most uneducated people in the space. If he would have presented that to sophisticated real estate investors that have been through multiple syndication deals, they would have been like, no, we don't like this deal. Just by the way it's composed. We don't like it, right? But he went after the most, so he was able to get people to buy into something because they were very unsophisticated. See, one thing I teach people is you got to get to a level of competency to know that you're incompetent. Most people are in a space and don't understand how incompetent they are because you got to get to a level of competency to even understand what you don't know about the space. That takes time. So what also makes me different is that we didn't just sell you a course and walk away. We continue to give you access to support because you can get a year into being a trader and now you start realizing this is what I don't know. So you got a whole different set of questions a year into something than you had when you first started. But most people are just going to sell you something. They're going to do a 6-week run. This is the launch model. The launch model is to sell you something, do a 6-week run, and then that's it. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but that's not our model because we understood that because you're on a journey, you're going to get a year into it and you're going to have different questions than you had in month 1. Then in year 2, you're going to have different questions. This is the first time I've traded in a Federal Reserve tightening. I've never traded when the Federal Reserve is tightening. Therefore, the market is responding differently than what I've ever seen before because I've never been in this situation. So what? I have different questions now than I had a year ago. Once I get through this process, my perspective of the market is going to be different than what it was. And then once I get 5 years in, because I've been through this, I'm going to have a different perspective of the market. So you got to understand is that most people are being marketed to at the bottom of the funnel. The reason why most of these people can't say anything to me is because I'm not at the bottom of the funnel. So they don't have a conversation for me because the narrative that they're trying to push on me, it won't make sense. It won't stand up to my experiences, right? It won't stand up to my experiences in this actual market. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me stop this screen, share it out. Okay, we was already here. Okay, so here are what we call options chains, right? Let me get rid of this banner, right? So what we're looking at is the IWM, which is like an ETF, okay? And looking at this IWM, what you're seeing is that we got 9/16/2022 185 strike puts, right? It's a sweep for 2.7 million in premium. We got another 9/16/2022 185 put with another 2.7 million in premium. We got another 9/16/2022 put with 2.8 million in premium. Now somebody bought these contracts. So let me ask you a question. Why would somebody buy this much in premium if there was a 70 to 80 or 90% chance that these contracts would expire worthless? Right? However, when you don't even know where to look to find this kind of information, you can be susceptible or you can fall victim to these lies in the market. So I know where to go pull this information. And I know people that are connected, that I'm connected to, that also know how to access this kind of info. Now, the info is available to you, but most people don't know where to go look because why? They don't know how to read an options chain, right? So there's a fundamental education that a lot of people are not getting because they're so anxious to want to start making some money. And because they haven't been laced properly in this particular game that we call being able to be a trader, they haven't been built up properly. And then when they don't have success, they fall victim to lies. Let's keep going. We're going to show you some more information, right? Here is a scanner that I use, right, to look at options activity. Now, what we're seeing is, and I want you, this is on ARK. So this is Kathy Wood's ETF. I think this is the ARK Innovation ETF. So this is on 810, right? We see premium 103, 405, 166, 197, 162, 165, 165, going all the way down. And I set this scanner up for stuff that was on the buy side. So these contracts were bought. So there's a lot of bearish sentiment on ARK Innovation ETF. These contracts were bought. You see these are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why would somebody outlay that hundreds of thousands of dollars if they just knew they were going to lose their money? And there's a lot of reasons people buy options. They looking to hedge. They looking to protect their position. There's a lot of different reasons. But you wouldn't have this kind of premium being outlaid if people that were operating as institutions knew that, well, I'm just going to lose my money on this, but I'm just going to do it just to do it. That's what I want people to understand. You got to understand the difference between retail buying and institutional buying. This is institutional buying. What I showed you earlier is institutional buying. Doesn't mean they're always right. But no retail person has $2 million to buy options. It just doesn't exist. No retail trader has $2 million to buy options. Maybe a guy that got a private fund somewhere, but he's not retail either because he's an accredited investor. Let's go to the next one. Here's some more IWM puts. What are we seeing? 2.9 million, 800,000, 900,000, 500,000, 3.3 million, right? They expire 9/16. Okay. We're seeing the puts. We're seeing the size of it, right? We're seeing the price that they bought them at. These are institutions buying. These are not retail. So what you're being taught when people are telling you to buy premium, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a million ways to make money in this market. However, when you're operating as an option seller, don't start thinking that you're operating as an institution, because you can't sell that much premium, one, because you don't have control of that much equity, and two, your broker's not going to allow you to create that much margin because you're going to be responsible for it if it goes against you. So there's nothing wrong with selling premium. I'm all for making money. But don't let somebody persuade you that the easy way and the risk-free way to make money in this market is all you got to do is go sell premium. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Let's go at another options chain, right? So here's some more ARK, right? So we're looking at the put side. So the ARK 8/10/2022, this is when it was bought. I forgot the expiration date. The $48 put, I want to say that expires, I want to say in either August or September. If you look at the 52,229, that's open interest. There's around $18 million in premium just on that particular contract. So this is the list of contracts on ARK going down to strike price, right? Let me restart that. I should have duplicated that. There is around $18 million in premium on that contract. And so what I want you to understand is that these are not retail people buying. These are institutions taking these positions. For whatever reason, doesn't mean they're always right. Different institutions are competing against each other to make money in the market. Now, somebody sold them contracts. They were sold those contracts by an options maker or a market maker, right? Citadel being the biggest market maker for options in the whole world. However, if they knew that they were going to lose on those contracts, why would they spend that much money on premium? And so these are the things that you only will understand with education, being in the right communities, being around the right people, where we're having these kind of conversations and you're elevating your education in the space. You're not just looking for the quickest way to go get some money. Because one thing about this system, what it does is it keeps us desperate, puts us in a desperate situation. And then we act out of desperation in every situation. And so we know there's a story about a guy drowning will reach out for a piece of straw to try to save him. Why? Because he's desperate to stop drowning. So many of us, instead of us doing the fundamental work to be successful long-term, we look for the easiest way to get out of our situation. And a lot of times that makes our defeat or our time of losing longer because we can't figure out how to become successful. And that's what I want people to understand. If you watched any of the trades that I put up, you can follow my community page. You can look at my Instagram page and look at any of the trades that I put up. You know what? Somebody sold me those contracts. So if somebody sold me those contracts, once those contracts moved out of their position, I know what they had to do to try to hedge themselves against those contracts. So because I understand how this space actually operates, I don't win on every contract. But because I understand how this space actually operates, I'm not taking suckers bets. If I would have had $100,000 to buy puts on it, I would have bought $100,000 in puts on Carvana, and I would have took the next 2 years off because I would have returned 300% on those puts, right? Paid my taxes and went and got out of the way. And so that's what I'm trading for, because I understand my biggest impediment in this space is risk management and money management, right? It's never, I don't understand what I'm doing. I'm just in this space making it up as I go along, right? So my goal now is to get enough capital and to make sure I manage my risk properly. And I have a mentor that's a higher level trader, and we're working on that. But I have worked really hard to understand this space. But don't ever let people tell you there's only money to be made on one side of this particular market. There's money to be made on many sides in this market. There's money to be made in selling premium. There's money to be made in buying premium. There's money to be made in buying equities and hedging yourself with options contracts. There's ways to work trades using options because market makers got a hedge around it, but they come because you understand the market and you understand how it's actually composed. Not because you're looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, not because you're looking for somebody to explain to you why you weren't successful, right? And not because you're looking for the risk-free way to make money. There is no risk-free way to make money in the whole world. Even a job has risk associated to it. You just have to ask yourself if the risk you're involved in are acceptable based on the return that you think you're going to get out of the market. So now we're going to get up on out of here. Let me go back to my particular sponsor of the show. It's itmasterkey.com. Make sure we got that banner to come up properly. If you're looking to transition into the tech field, my friends over at Master IT can definitely help. Their training is going to be 100% online and accessible 24/7 worldwide. Most students gain their first certification in 30 days. I want you to visit itmasterkey.com to begin your transition into tech today. So if you got any questions, you got any comments, let me know. We're going to go through the comments, man, and we're going to get it up on out of here. So just like Master P said, never make a deal when you're desperate. Definitely. But most of us are always in a state of desperation, which is what this system is designed to do. It's designed to make you desperate. It's designed to make you frantic. It's designed to make you think you don't have a lot of options. But it also teaches you not to educate yourself around what you're involved in. So many people are involved in stuff and they don't even know what they're doing. And it's very unfortunate because there's so much opportunity in these markets that we're not aware of, that we've been told not to focus on, right? And we're not even aware of what we could be doing in this particular space because it's bigger than the options market. Once you understand the options market, you understand the actual options that you do have available to you. But the reason why I teach options is because it's a low barrier to entry. They used to tell people back in the day, if you wanted to trade equities, you had to have $25,000 in your account. Most of our people would never get $25,000 in their account. They just won't. So in their mind, I can't even operate in this space. We needed a better way to get people into these markets at a lower cost structure that get them to understand the possibilities. But everybody's telling you they got a better deal for you. But the best deal for you is, for one, to you to understand your own psychology, and to two, for you to understand what is actually available to you and start immersing yourself in that and having conversations about it. We talk about everything else except how to make money, right? Everything got to be a hack or a secret. There's no hack to this stuff. Just go do it, right? But it's just, that's my narrative, right? Everybody's narrative is different. So Ty Hijah, if I pronounced that right, having access to the mindset council has been an integral part for me even through the initial studies. Definitely. And I'm glad you are appreciating it because that is a differentiator. I studied these courses for literally months before I launched my own course. And I asked myself, one, if you understand how to solve a problem, you look at how everybody else has failed at solving a problem before you. So then what do? You know what not to do. Right? You don't just repeat what they've already done. I know what not to do. Why? Because I know what everybody else has done to not solve the problem before me. And I understand what all of us, including myself included, our biggest obstacle is not our lack of information being available to us. is what's going on between our head. I'm going to talk about this later. I know a top tier athlete that had to prove themselves a few weeks ago. And what they were able to do to prove themselves in a controlled environment shows that they can perform at an extremely elite level. But in competition, they're not doing it. Why? Because it's all in here. That's what they need to work on. And if they don't work on that, they're going to have issues, right? So that's why I put that in there. That is my differentiator. But I want everybody else to copy it, but they're not going to copy it because it's so you can make the most money in the world by teaching people that their problem is not them. And I'm not talking about it from a browbeating standpoint, but actually giving them a solution. I don't just say personal responsibility. I now give you a solution to the personal responsibility because I'm solution-based. But I really appreciate that you're getting value from that. And I appreciate that sister for partnering with me on that particular deal because she didn't have to do that. If people read the Tulsa perspective, yeah, definitely get you, Dan. I'm going to talk about that in the next video. What I didn't like about it was the structure and the fact that he didn't get paid necessarily on performance. He got paid for management and what the management fees were. He also got paid for marketing and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it wasn't a bad deal for him because he gets paid whichever way it goes. But see, I don't think people understand that about a lot of these setups. How does the person that composed the fund get paid? Do they get paid on performance or do they get paid just for management? Right? Because like if you're in a 401k, they get paid on management. It don't matter how it performs. Most 401ks are down for the year. The manager's still going to get paid. They don't care that it's down. They get paid to manage. John James, man, I appreciate the $5. A lot of good ones make it complex. You keep it simple. Yeah, that's something I try to do. I learned this when I went to college, is that a lot of people try to make things complicated to try to protect their position. So I got to make it sound complicated to protect my position in it and to try to protect what I've invested to learn it. I want people to learn this space. So I got to make it as simple as possible so people don't think it's above my head because it's really not. You know, the mathematics in this space are really like on a basic level. Ray Gunn, I appreciate it, man. So let's get down to the bottom. We're going to bounce out of here. Miss Ashley Hearn, I appreciate the super sticker. So Mr. Montgomery said, how do I cancel out the noise and focus strictly on the market? It's a really, really important question. So Mr. Montgomery, I love this question. So I started thinking about what I wanted out of life. And I started asking myself, am I willing to make the sacrifices to get there? Because none of us are getting younger and there's no guarantees about life. I started asking myself, what do I want my legacy to be on this planet? And I started focusing on that. And I had been through so much stuff with other people till I realized I only can truly control myself. I was reading a story about Kobe, and I remember this. I remember this because I remember the game because they played Orlando. This was back when Tracy McGrady was playing for Orlando. We talking about over a decade ago because I watched that game at my grandma's house. And Kobe was talking about how he was having issues with his wife. His wife was going through something. And he was being distracted from what he had to do in the game because he was worrying about him and his wife. And he said he decided right there on that bench, the only thing he could control is his performance on the court. He can't control nothing else. And that was that year. I want to say it might have been 08, where he was putting up like 30 a game. He had multiple 50-plus point games because he made that decision in Orlando that all I can control is what I do on the court. I can't control nothing else. And so I realized because I had been through so much stuff with other people, been in relationships, the relationships didn't work. I said, all I can worry about is me, my performance, and what I'm doing, and the legacy I'm trying to build out. And I can't worry about nothing else. Because I wasted a lot of time trying to make other people do what I wanted them to do. And I realized I can't make them do that. They're going to do what they want to do. I got to do what I need to do and let them do what they want to do. And the people that want to get on the team and want to be down with the program, they're going to get on the team and they're going to want to be down with the program. But I can't worry about that. And so that's really what got me to focus. It really was a lot of failing and trying to do other stuff, trying to work with other people, trying to develop partnerships with other people. I just had to let all that go and just focus on what I was doing and being able to show results and productivity and that, and really being worried about my legacy. I wanted to, well, when I'm gone, my name means something. I don't want it to when I'm gone, my name don't mean nothing. The money's not enough for my name not to mean nothing. I want my name to actually mean something. And so that's what I really started focusing on. And that's what got me to just lock in and focus strictly on the market. Because I told this on Erica's channel, I'm about to say about a year ago now. I'm 100% convinced that I'm gonna get rich out of the market. I'm not convinced I'm gonna get rich selling courses, right? I'm not convinced I'm gonna get rich off YouTube. I'm 100% convinced I'm gonna get rich out of this market because I know too many people that have been able to do it, and I just don't think they're that smarter than me. They just been doing this longer than me, and they've really figured out how to really control themselves. And I'm getting better and better at controlling me because I used to be a real impulsive person. I used to snap on people, stuff like that. I'm getting better and better about controlling myself. I made a video the other day, and when I went back through it, I said, you know what, I ain't gonna put that video out. Why? Because it's gonna come across negative, and I don't want people to get that impression. But 5 years ago, I ought to put that video out because I'm with the bullshit. But I had to learn how to really control my behavior because it's not gonna benefit me long term. But that's a great question because that's something a lot of people struggle with. Anytime in life, anytime you start doing something new and you start getting traction in it, you're gonna find stuff popping up in your life to take you away from it. Some of it you might have to focus on because it could be family related or it could be personal. But you'll always find out. Get something going that's working for you, and people will start showing up in your life, and you know what? They ain't nothing but a distraction from what you're trying to do. But they look like they a good deal, but they ain't doing nothing but gonna take you off your program. So I had to just really stick to my program, and that's what I really try to do. And God willing, I'm gonna just stick to it until I get to where I'm trying to go. But that's a great question. That's something a lot of people struggle with. So I appreciate that question. In order to be a successful trader, you got to be an independent thinker. Had to be, yeah, definitely. And I do that like every Sunday. I sit down and think a lot. And it's something I'm really working on is risk management at an elite level. That's something that Mecca's better than me at. Mecca's better at risk management than me. I'm still working at elite level risk management because I've seen a lot of people make money in this market, and over the course of the year, they give it all back. Why? Because they should have just took their money and walked away. Instead, I'm trying to get more, and I now start trading reckless, right? And that happens to people over and over again. That's how Vegas makes so much money because they know if you win, you're going to give it right back because they're going to keep you gambling. So that's something I'm really working on because I know a guy, my mentor, told me he trades using an algo. But he says, I can give you the algo, but if you don't have the risk management, it don't matter because the algo don't make you manage risk. It just tells you what it takes to trade. So he says, you got to get at an elite level of risk management in a position sizing. And he says, that's your first stage to really making real big money in this market. So that's something I'm really working on because, you know, when you work for somebody, they're going to manage your risk. They just cut your computer off. But when you trading for yourself, you got to have an elite level of risk management. And like I say, that's something that Mecca is a lot better than me at. From a risk management standpoint, her risk management is at an elite level. It's like really, really good. It's almost like a computer. So, man, Montgomery, no problem. And I was glad that you was able to get some value out of it, right? So I really appreciate it. So if y'all got any questions, man, hit me up in the comments. David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. And like I said, man, I'm gonna drop another video like 5 to 10 minutes, so y'all come back through, man, and we gonna get to another topic. All right, peace.